What's up, everybody? Welcome to Moxie Bets, presented by Caesar Sportsbook. I'm Katie Mox, and today we are talking with my friend who I haven't seen in quite some time, Frank Michael Smith, Mr. Pittsburgh, if you will. How's it going?
Katie, it's great to be on. I like Mr. Pittsburgh. This sounds nice. I'll take it.
Yeah, Rhino, Pittsburgh, I mean, kind of in the same thing. So Frank and I met each other, God, what was it? 2021, I think, quite some time ago. And we met in Pittsburgh. We were both doing the show, like kind of a ride-along show. And it was my first time in Pittsburgh. And I was with you. And it was absolutely freezing that day. But I always tell everyone, like, Pittsburgh has such a special place in my heart. Like, salt of the earth people. Remember, I lost my purse and somehow it found its way to me because somebody turned it into a crossing guard, and the cross guard somehow found my Instagram and DM'd me. And then at the end of the game, bag, everything in it. I had my passport. Like, people at Pittsburgh, come on.
Well, we had to redeem ourselves with the purse because you didn't like the Permanis, so we got something right.
Okay, but you did tell me that the ones at the stadium were not as good as if you got them.
Not even close. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So I gotta do another one. All right, Frank. So we're going to talk today NBA Finals. Get into a little NFL storylines as well, because I know that you do a lot with the NFL. Looking at game one, that's tonight. The number 5 Mavericks playing the Boston Celtics, number 1 here. What I found interesting, because you do a lot of really cool videos that tell people things that they probably don't know. I was shocked when I watched the video that you did about Jaylen Brown. As much as I learned, I had no idea he was an actual genius.
It's hard to imagine he has time to practice basketball once you watch the video.
Yeah, NASA, chess, like what?
It's shocking. The guy is so talented. I think some people just have different brains, different DNA, and he's one of those special people that can divert his attention in 10 different ways and still find, and not spread himself thin. He can still be successful at all these things. So, yeah, kudos to him. I'm happy I was able to make that video and people were able to learn. It's kind of like the Josh Dobbs thing. I'll use like the NFL example for people who watch the show and are not dialed in on Jaylen Brown. It's like Josh Dobbs on steroids off the field.
Right. Well, yeah, because Josh Dobbs was a cool story, but, a backup that came and did some cool things here and there. But Jaylen Brown is a superstar.
No, I meant the Josh Dobbs like NASA thing, right? Because he's a rocket
scientist. Yes. Well, no, what I'm saying is he wasn't as big of a star as Jaylen Brown is. And he's NASA and Cal and MIT and chess club and like just insane.
Katie, he's learning Arabic. I mean, he's the only person I've ever heard of that's learning Arabic.
No. So what do you think? One, what prompted you to do a video about, had you heard about this before and you're like, this is interesting? Or like what tipped you off to doing this video?
I had heard of it before, but I didn't know the full extent of it until I really dove in and did the research. But the timing felt right. For some reason, the NHL playoffs and the NHL conference finals and the NBA conference finals ended and we had 5 days of nothing. And I was like, oh man, like, I think this would be the right time to put something out there to just hold people over a little bit. Jaylen Brown's going to be in the news, so let me dig in here.
Yeah, Eastern Conference Finals MVP. He's the one, that hit that shot in game 1 of the last series to take them into overtime. All right, so let's look at game 1 here. The Celtics are laying 6.5, minus 250 on the money line if you want to take them straight up. And the total 215.5. You do a lot of prop bets and stuff. I see you working, doing that kind of stuff. Any thoughts on this game? Any props maybe that you like?
Yeah, there are. So I've been treated so well by Luka this entire playoffs.
Yeah.
I think if the Celtics are going to learn anything from that Western Conference Finals, it's you're going to have to double Luka really hard, early and often. They didn't really seem to do it. I don't know what was up with Chris Finch, like why they didn't go to that earlier, especially, in the closeout game when he started off the game piping hot. He's torching them, and they seem content with letting him do that. I know Kyrie's on the team, and if you double Luka, there's going to be more space for him, but I think you got to try to cut the head off the dragon here. So Boston's a great defensive team. They can afford to help in other places. I'm looking for them to blitz Luka early tonight and for him to give up the ball. So they have him at 8.5 assists, and I'm going to be over that because, at this point, it's pick your poison with him. Yeah. You can try to stop him. He'll beat you in one way or the other. I think they're going to try to take the ball out of his hands.
There's no stopping Luka, there's only slowing him down, you're right. When I was looking at his points and assists earlier this week, I don't know if it's gone up, it was at 40.5. That to me seemed a little bit high. I like your over on the 8.5, but yeah, he's either gonna be facilitating or he's gonna be deadly, shooting, and I do think that Kyrie gets more looks here. Now, when we think about someone like Kyrie, right? History in Boston, ugly history recently in Boston. He stomped on the logo. He's lost ever since doing that. There is no love lost with Boston fans in him. It is going to be a hostile environment. Do you think that Kyrie reverts back to kind of the old Kyrie, or do you think we see the heroics that we've been seeing kind of recently?
I think Kyrie's turned a corner.
Yeah.
There's the famous clips of him like double middle finger while he's playing in
Oh,
Boston,
God.
like
Yes.
really plays into the animosity. I don't think he's going to be doing that stuff. I think the crowd's going to be giving it to him, but I think he's going to maintain his composure here
Yeah.
and continue his stellar play. I don't think he's going to play into it and really like let that affect his game. The new
Yeah.
Kyrie has been doing so well. I don't know why he'd
Yeah.
change.
Well, and the thing, I think he's just happy. I think he's at peace. I feel like leaving Boston, there was all that turmoil. The Nets never had anything figured out. People were coming and going, and it just they were supposed to have this big three. It was supposed to be Scary Island, and it just was a big mess. And I think he finally found a home with Dallas. So we look at there's no shortage of stars, Frank, right? In this MVP or NBA Finals, you've got Luka and you've got Kyrie, which we're just talking about. And you got Jaylen Brown, who you did a whole video on, Eastern Conference Finals MVP with Jason Tatum. Which duo do you trust more?
This sounds crazy, but I trust Luka and Kyrie more.
Yeah,
They've
they're
they've
battle
just
tested.
I trust Luka and Kyrie more. People forget that Luka won a title. People are gonna say like Luka is not prepared for this. He's not ready for the finals. Is different. He won a title in Europe at like 18 years old and was the
Yeah,
MVP of that league. That's not a joke. He played in Spain. Like this is one of the best leagues in the world. So he has played on huge stages before. He has played in the Olympics before. I don't think he's a guy that's going to go into a shell, which on the other side, we've seen Jason Tatum do that. The last finals,
multiple
Jason Tatum
times.
was not on his game. He went into a
Mhm.
shell. It didn't look like he could get into his shots consistently versus Golden State, and that's not even the peak Golden State team.
No.
So, no, after coming out of this last finals, I saw Boston in. I tend not to trust that duo.
Well, and the thing is too, Frank, it's hard for me just to trust the team in general. It's like you never know which Celtics team is going to come out in any given quarter. Sometimes they come out guns blazing, and then sometimes they get blown out. And you're like, what's happening here? Like most of the series leading up to this point, blew the teams out in game one, got blown out in the second game, and then we saw with the Pacers that first game went into overtime. But they tend to play with their food a little bit, and I agree with you. You can't do that with Luka and Kyrie. So we would talk about the X factors for each team. I think you kind of nailed it in what Boston needs to do. They need to try to neutralize Luka as best as they can. But what do you think the Mavericks' special sauce is going to be to beat this Celtics team, which, as you alluded to, it's very deep roster, healthy.
Well, I have a couple X Factor ideas, but can I flip it around and say this is also a huge
Yes.
series for Porzingis? He has his
Yes.
return to Dallas. And that did not go well.
Yeah.
There's not going to be any ill will there like there is in the Kyrie side, but I think he's an X factor. I think he's an X factor for Boston in getting him going, and I think he's an X factor in Dallas for making sure he does not get going. Because the Boston team we've seen without Porzingis, they've lost some bad games. I mean, they got beat by double digits at home by Cleveland, and they were down huge to Indiana in a couple of those games. That series probably should have gone 6 games.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're right. And I forgot about Porzingis because he clearly was injured for a certain amount of time. He's coming back. Well, and you wonder how productive he's going to be. And yeah, coming back to Dallas, that is the very interesting one. Who do you think wins the series? I feel like this goes the distance, and I want to say the Mavs, but it's hard for me to count Celtics out.
I'm on the Mavs. I'm on the Mavs. I think they win in 7. I don't
Mhm.
think that home series, that 7th game at Boston means as nearly as much as it
No,
used to.
no.
I have the Mavs in 7. I know it's an underdog pick. I feel really good about it. And a lot of it, like, we can dive into as many crazy stats and analytics and Kyrie and Luka lead with like 56 points a game. And there's the
Yeah.
duo versus this duo. But then I've watched a lot of playoff basketball here, like every possible game I could. I haven't seen a team that creates easier offense than Dallas. I just haven't seen it. They seem to get anything they want because Luka has a counter for everything. He gets into the paint whenever he wants. He can hit you with that floater. He can use his size. He's an incredible passer. And they have these guys like Derek Jones and PJ Washington who've really been hitting the shots. Like I haven't seen anything come easier.
Well, and that's the thing is that I feel like the Dallas Mavericks are battle tested. They had a really tough road to get to this point. Not that the Celtics didn't earn, they were the best team in the NBA pretty much all season long, but they caught some luckier breaks in the postseason with teams being heavily injured. I think that the healthy Knicks team could have certainly given them a run for their money. And maybe if they were healthy, we'd be looking at a different NBA finals. So I agree with you. And from what we've seen from the Celtics in the postseason, they've gone to they went to 3 straight championship games in their conference, but they're unfortunately like my 49ers. They can get there, but can they get over the hump? All right, we're going to take a quick break here. And when we come back, we're talking NFL storylines. A lot of stuff happening in the offseason. We're going to break it down and talk about some players as well. You're watching Moxie Bets. Keep it locked. Why should you bet with Caesars Sportsbook? 2 words, Caesars Rewards. Every bet brings you closer to the type of benefits only Caesars can offer. Hotel stays, VIP experiences, sports and concert tickets, and more. It's not just an app, it's an empire. Welcome back here on Moxie Bets, presented by Caesars Sportsbook, here with our guy, Frank Michael Smith. All right, let's move on now to the NFL offseason and some of the biggest storylines. I alluded to my 49ers ahead of the break. Christian McCaffrey signed a 2-year extension, averaging $19 million per year. How do you think? I mean, we're excited about it. He deserves it. I don't think there's anyone that doesn't think that he is the best running back in the league and maybe one of the best running backs of all time. Super versatile player. But it starts to get concerning when you look at Brandon Aiyuk, right? He's still holding out. He wants to get paid. Do you think this impacts the 49ers stalemate with Aiyuk?
Well, I'm surprised you didn't immediately give me a hard time for my video last year saying that CMC is going to be the bust of the season. I really ate my words on that one.
Off the
hook. Yeah. I am not picking that this year. I think he's worth every dollar the 49ers gave him. I think Bosa's worth every dollar. It's tough. Everyone in Pittsburgh is just waiting for that tweet to drop. We want a receiver so bad, and there's all these Aiyuk rumors. And I saw the funniest meme after our McCaffrey got paid, and it's like Aiyuk looking around watching everyone get paid but me. It has to feel like that for him. Seriously. I mean, he's probably not in my top tier of receivers. He's amazing. He's probably in that second tier. He probably commands at least like a $25 million contract now. I don't see how the Niners make it work. I don't see it.
I know. And John Lynch always comes out being like, we want to keep him. We want to do this. And you look at what I hope isn't happening, right? Is because all of these players have egos, right? You can't be great at what you do and not be a slight egomaniac. But I certainly hope that he doesn't see what Justin Jefferson got paid and think that that's coming his way, because you are not Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson is an elite talent. I think with the 49ers too, is they're a run first team. They're obviously getting a little bit better when it comes to throwing the ball with Purdy, but there's no true wide receiver one like a Justin Jefferson is, where everything's going to kind of funnel through him. You've got Debo, you've got Aiyuk, you've got McCaffrey, and all these different, positionless players. Think about George Kittle too, that can catch even Juszczyk. So it's hard to put that much money on a single guy. And he's the deep ball threat. He's the guy that goes outside the numbers. He's one of Purdy's favorite targets. But when you look at even someone like Debo, who got paid a couple years ago, he's much more versatile to me than Aiyuk is.
Yeah, and Debo's had his problems, and I know he's like struggling with his health here and there too, but that's kind of to be expected when you put that beating on him, right? And he came into this past season in much better shape, to his credit.
Yes.
But some of these teams now, they're just going to struggle with this because the wide receiver market, I didn't see it blowing up like this. And I agree with you. He's not Justin Jefferson. CeeDee Lamb's up for a contract right now too.
Yep.
He wants Jefferson money. None of these guys are Jefferson, but then you have guys like Amon-Ra St. Brown making $30 million a year. I think
Yes.
Aiyuk thinks he's on that same level.
Yeah, and I know the 49ers just freed up like $30+ million in cap space with maneuvering things around. So I certainly hope that we keep him. But yeah, I mean, he's been chatting to Tomlin and saying, "Oh, we look alike. Do y'all think we look alike?" He's been playing
Oh,
that
man.
game
Yeah, we've seen
a
all of it.
little bit.
We saw Michael Parsons do the same thing from Dallas.
Oh,
Hey, I wouldn't go
yeah,
anywhere unless it was Pittsburgh. They're just trying to get
yeah.
us riled up right now. I'm trying not to believe any of it here in Pittsburgh, except for the wide receiver stuff, because that is, everyone's so excited here in the offseason, but that is the one group where we got
Yeah.
significantly worse.
Yeah, we'll get into Steelers in just one second. But looking at the 49ers, win total is high. It's 11. They're the favorite to win the division at minus 225. Super Bowl, they are tied for the best odds with the Chiefs. This freaks me out, Frank. Okay, because on paper, yeah, the 49ers look stacked. We got to figure out the Aiyuk thing. Fine. We lost some people on defense. New defensive coordinator. We'll see how Brandon Staley does. But everything looks good on paper, but I do feel like the last couple years, Frank, we've been kind of not underdogs. Like we're still been very good, but it's like when Trey Lance was starting, you thought, okay, the 49ers take a step back, and then he got injured, and then Jimmy comes back, and then he gets injured, and there's Purdy, and we have this amazing freak kind of season. And then Purdy starts his second year, and everyone's like, all right, well, let's see if he can really do it. The 49ers at this point, no one is expecting the 49ers to take a step back, and that's a lot of pressure. And as we've seen, teams that went to a Super Bowl and lost coming back don't do too well. I shudder to think about what happened after the 2019 season when we lost half of our starters at MetLife.
Well, it wasn't that long ago. You guys did make the Super Bowl, lose to the Chiefs, came back, made the Super Bowl again. So, I think you
4
have the
years later.
structure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you have the structure there. I think a lot of this goes back to Shanahan, and he's going to
Love him.
get that team ready to play. He's going to scheme up this offense to make sure his guys are in position to make plays. The roster is fantastic. No one has any questions there. Despite all these contract things we might be talking about, these guys are all on the team. So
Yeah.
they're playing this year. I see no reason why they'd take a step back. I believe in the structure of this team, and they clearly are setting the goal very high for themselves, which obviously you want.
Yeah. First of all, I saw your cat, just a little tail go up in the background. Hi, kitty.
That's my employee. He works down here with me.
That's your manager, just making sure you're on top of everything. Okay, yeah. So do you think that they get over 11 wins?
Definitely.
It's a lot.
Definitely. I'm thinking like 13.
Definitely. Okay, yes, love that. Obviously, win the division. The division is interesting because you got to think that the Cardinals are still in a little bit of a rebuild mode. Who knows what Seattle's going to look like in their first year without Pete Carroll? I thought the way that they kind of pushed him out or moved him around, maybe I think he's still advising or something, was a little bit strange. The Rams, they lost Aaron Donald, which you cannot fathom what that means. I mean, he is a generational talent when quarterbacks are sleep a lot, easier now that he's gone. But still, they took care of that in the draft. The Rams are going to be good this year. But I do still think the 49ers winning the division makes sense. Super Bowl odds. Super Bowl all depends on health, right? I mean, really.
It's not that fun to take any of these teams that have short odds to win the Super Bowl. If I'm going to bet on a Super Bowl, it's going to be someone like off the beaten path here. So I don't look at a lot of those bets unless they're long and I think there's something there. And I don't know. To be honest, like if you're a bettor, like making those bets is not fun. You have all your money tied up for like the next
for a year,
25 weeks.
Exactly.
Yeah. If I really like a team to win the Super Bowl, I'm just going to bet on them on their money line on a week-to-week basis. That's
yeah. That makes sense. I mean, for the 49ers last year, I just bet them over their team total every single week, and it cashed pretty much all the time except for 3 games. All right, moving on. We were talking about CeeDee Lamb here. He is also holding out. He's one where Cowboys fans, I think, should be a little bit worried. I don't know why Jerry Jones does this every single year. They wait, and the price just keeps going up. What do you see happening with CeeDee Lamb? Do you think this goes into the season and maybe he sits out a couple games?
I'd be surprised if that happens. That hasn't gone well for any of these players. It's in Pittsburgh. Le'Veon did the entire season that ended his career.
Yep.
So I don't think that's the strategy. There is so much money there. I think at some point CeeDee has to say, and he has to sit down with his agent and have a conversation that's real. Say, we are not Justin Jefferson's team here.
Yeah.
We are near that first group. Maybe we'll take a little bit more than Amon-Ra got. Maybe we'll do something, in the 32, $33 million range. That's an amazing contract. And I do think Dallas will get that done. But the whole situation there in Dallas, I made a video about this the other day. It truly is a nightmare.
Who is Dak throwing to if not CeeDee Lamb? I mean, it is
Well,
slim pickings.
everyone in Dallas thinks Dak's going to be gone. They think this is his last season there. Dak is he wants to reset the market. CeeDee wants to reset the market, and Micah Parsons wants to reset the market. And they're all up at the same time, Katie. So I ran the math here, and I put this in my video. If Dallas were to give them those market resetting contracts, that would be 47% of the cap on 3 players. It's just not going to happen.
No.
Well, everyone in Dallas is kind of saying, Dak, if you don't win us a playoff game this year, I'm sorry, you're going to have to go a similar route that Kirk Cousins just went. You'll get paid. You'll go somewhere else. But it's over for you here in Dallas, and we'll bring back CeeDee and Micah. Now, where it gets interesting is if they do win a playoff game, it's kind of hard to let Dak walk, and then you're not letting his top option walk. You're going to bring CeeDee back too. Micah gets
They got to win more than one playoff game. You know what I mean? Get yourself at least the NFC Championship game.
I think the bar is that low in Dallas right now. They got to win a playoff game. And unfortunately, that's $53 million for Dak.
Yeah. Well, you got Dak out there saying, I don't do this for the money. It's like, okay. I mean, sure, right? You're in this to play football, and we get that, but you're looking for something large here. I don't know why I didn't even think about Dak leaving Dallas. But so then, okay, let's say Dak goes. Who's up? Is this why they got Trey Lance a couple years ago from the 40? I kind of feel like Trey Lance is just going to slip away into the ether, and he's never going to amount to anything, which is really unfair and sad.
Yeah, I want to see Trey Lance on the field. I was really, really excited. I was pumped when the 49ers took Trey Lance. I wanted the Steelers to trade up and get Trey Lance. I thought he's kind of what we're seeing with Anthony Richardson right now. This raw talent, super athletic. So I hope there's still a future for him. I think the Dallas roster is too talented to go that route, though. I think they would try to bring in someone experienced and that can,
Because who's their backup right now? What's his name? Their second backup or the first backup?
I thought it was Trey Lance. I don't know. I'd have to check.
No, well, maybe because there was someone else. I don't know why I'm blanking on who it is. And then it was Trey Lance. But all right, so a lot of things happening in Dallas potentially, or nothing happening in Dallas. I guess we'll see. Their win total is still high, 10.5. Books seem to think that they will figure it out. They're still the co-favorite to win the division, maybe just a little bit under the Eagles, plus 130. Super Bowl odds, no. I would take the Cowboys to win their division, but I would never take them to win the Super Bowl because at home, particularly and in season, they're fine. It's the postseason where they fall apart.
Yeah, they went through the middle of their schedule like a knife through butter. It was the best bet every single week from September through December, and then you get there and things fall apart.
Yeah, Cooper Rush. Thank you, Tucker, our producer. Cooper Rush. Yeah, he did really well when Dak was injured for those few games. All right, so of course I can't have you on here and not talk about the Steelers. They made some news when Jaylen Warren mentioned the possibility of Justin Fields returning kicks. Don't do that to him. Don't do that to him. I'll just go ahead and say that. But I do want to know when all the offseason stuff and the quarterback circle on, I was so excited about the possibility of Fields going to the Steelers. I'm not that high on Russell Wilson. Maybe it was just his time in Bronco territory, Bronco Nation, whatever they call themselves in Denver, that didn't go well. But then y'all got him. And then I was like, oh, okay, maybe no Fields. And then you got Fields. You know what they say? When you got 2 quarterbacks, you got none. Now, as a 49ers fan, I don't believe that because we went through 3 quarterbacks in one season and somehow still ended up at the NFC Championship game. Which quarterback do you like best? And tell me that you don't like the possibility of Fields returning kicks.
Okay, I'm a Fields person. I think Russell Wilson has relied on his athletic abilities to be the Russell Wilson that we think about. He's older now. He's in his mid-30s. He just hasn't been able to use those tools the last couple of years in Denver. The Seattle trade looks awesome, and I'm sure they knew this inside the building. Maybe it's one of the reasons why Pete Carroll wasn't letting Russ cook. Maybe he actually wasn't doing it after all. But I do think Russell Wilson has a chance to play in a this Arthur offense where we're going to run the ball a lot. We're going to set up play action. Hopefully the Steelers can put this offense around him in a way that, he doesn't have to make amazing plays here. We want to be a run first team, but we know this offense works better with a running quarterback, and that's obviously Justin Fields. Fields looked great the second half of the season. I mean, do you agree with that? He was fantastic.
100. First of all, I've always been a Fields guy. I wanted the 49ers to get Fields. I didn't know much about Trey Lance. I was worried about, the lack of what he was able to do during the COVID years in college. I loved Justin Fields, and I was such a big cheerleader for him too in Chicago. And I just felt like they kept misusing him. And I don't think that Tomlin is going to do that. Who do you think starts the season? Do you think you give it to Russ first? Just out of respect?
I forgot to tell you about the kickoffs. The kickoffs are going to catch so many people by surprise here, Katie. We're going to go into the preseason, and they're going to start doing these kicks, and it's going to be all over Twitter. It's going to look so goofy. The teams are lined up way down the other side of the field. So while this sounds ridiculous, you would have your quarterback returning kicks, no one's getting a running start at him. So it is kind of just like a design QB draw. It still feels weird.
Okay. Yep.
Do you know what I mean?
No, I'm working it out of my mind right now because I was like, first of all, I think that the traditional kick return, it's just so dangerous and wild. Yeah, that people get this running start at you for yards, But okay, all right. I didn't even think about the new kickoff rules.
That's what I'm saying. It's going to catch a lot of people by surprise here. It's going to look goofy. I don't personally love it. Maybe I'll be wrong because I haven't seen it yet, really. But it's going to feel more like a QB draw where he catches the ball. Defenders are only going to be about 10 yards away from him and he'll have blockers set up. So it's not going to be this like crazy dangerous thing. Who knows? Like I'm sure smart teams will find like the advantages here. Maybe you can even do like an option play where, like that old kickoff trick play where you'd have two people and you like fake the handoff. Maybe we'll see more of that stuff. I don't know. But I think your question was like, who do you want to go? Or who do I want to start? Who do I think will start?
Well, I know who you want to start, and that's Justin Fields. And I feel like you're going to say who you think you start. I think out of respect, you give it to Russell Wilson, right? Just because of his pedigree in the league.
Well, I think it was promised to him. I think the Steelers promised him that, yes, you're going to have – we're going to say you have pole position here in the preseason, but we're just saying that because of optics. Like you can't just like not give Justin Fields a chance. It's going to be Russell Wilson. It's going to be his job to lose. Anything goes though once the season starts. They said that said that when Kenny was a rookie and he came in like the third game at halftime versus the Jets. I was at the game. He came in at halftime. Things can change that quickly.
I wonder if it's going to be like back when Harbaugh was at the 49ers and we had Alex Smith and Colin Kaepernick. And they both played. I mean, obviously, Alex Smith was the starter, and he was the one getting most of the snaps. But he would just, Colin Kaepernick would just go in there and do some cool trick plays every once in a while. And so I wonder if maybe they'll kind of work Justin Fields in that way. Like he'll get some snaps, but just not be the starter and the most regular.
I'd expect to see that, like a better version of Taysom Hill's Saints package where he comes in and he can be a red zone weapon. I think they'd be silly not to try something like that out.
Do you think that Russell Wilson was surprised when they got Justin Fields?
I don't know if surprise is the right word because he handled it really well. He tweeted immediately. He was like, let's compete every single day. I'm so happy to have you here. The Steelers they were probably forthcoming and told them like, hey, this is going to be your job. If we bring Fields in, it's still going to be your job, but like that might be something that happens. I lean towards him kind of being on the inside there.
Yeah. All right. Makes sense. So we look at the Steelers, win total 8.5. Tomlin has never had a losing season. There's last couple seasons I thought, oh, this is the year. And it's just never the year. I don't know what he did. I always say that he like sold his soul to like some witch doctor somewhere to like never have a losing season. Odds to win the division, the toughest division in football, the AFC North, they're 6-1. Super Bowl odds Super Bowl feels like a little bit of a stretch this year, but you tell me, Frank. But this 8.5, do you think they go over?
Well, we have the most expensive defense in football. We've talked a lot about offense here, but this defense has everyone healthy. Of course, it's the beginning of the season, but that's huge. The playoff game we played, we didn't have TJ Watt.
But But Frank, you look at the stats when TJ Watt is on the field versus when he's not, points allowed per game, like literally everything across the board. He is a difference maker.
Oh my God. I mean, he's the most important player on the field. If you're betting, he's worth like a touchdown in my eyes.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's wild. I don't know if there's another player like him. So you have this most expensive defense in football. You have guys like Patrick Queen who took a pay cut to leave the rival Ravens and come play middle linebacker for us, a spot that we've sorely needed someone the last pretty much since Shazier went down. So that's going to be the strong point of the team here. 8.5 is awesome. It's juiced. This bet's going to be like minus 140, maybe even minus 150, but it's the surest bet. Another bet I really like there too. I give this stat out every year because these analysts keep picking the Browns to finish ahead of the Steelers. People pick us last to finish 4th in the AFC North. It hasn't happened since 1988, before the AFC North existed. that was when we were in a division with like the Jags and Titans. So, Katie, it's just not something that happens. So I like both of those. They're sure things every year.
Yeah, I feel like people keep trying. It's like, if to put this in Mean Girls terms, stop trying to make fetch happen. It's not going to happen. Like the Browns are just not going to be good. And they really sold their soul, talking about selling souls, for Deshaun Watson. And I just don't think that is going. I mean, it didn't really work out that well last year.
I don't know why Flacco's not on the team.
Flacco was amazing. But the thing is like, you see these guys come in and they have spurts of magic, but eventually, they'll revert back to what we know. Kind of like, everybody was really excited about Rudolph, right, last year with you guys. And some people wanted you guys to sign him and I was like, no, we've seen enough on tape from him though, right?
He was really good to finish the year. But yeah, look.
But is it sustainable?
No. I would love Rudolph as a backup, but then we got Justin Fields as a backup. But
please, upgrade.
I think he's proved he's at least an NFL player now. He's come a long way since his rookie year where he had to step in for injured Ben.
I'm excited. So what do you think about this division? You look at the Bengals, they got a healthy Joe Burrow now, but they still got some disgruntled players on their team. You got the Steelers, who are looking really mean. Like you said, best defense, 2 really viable quarterbacks. You got a great run game. You look at the Ravens, Lamar Jackson coming off of a phenomenal year, maybe his second best year, but certainly his best as a passer. In that Todd Monken offense. And then who's the other team in that division? Oh, the Browns. We don't even care about the Browns. Where do you think the Steelers stack up when you look at the eliteness of the AFC North?
Well, I think it's still the Ravens division to lose, but I think it's very tight. It's always tight, right? Like this is going to
put the Ravens over the Bengals. I feel like a lot of people are super high on the Bengals this year.
Well, the Ravens are a regular season team, Katie. When this gets down to the dirty part, this is an outdoor division here. When things get tight at the end of the season, you have to go play in the playoffs. That's where we see the Ravens fall apart. One of the takes I give a lot is Lamar Jackson plays in the wrong division. If he played in one of these divisions where 3 or 4 of the teams have a dome, he'd be fantastic. He could go play his playoff games in a dome, but he can't use his athletic abilities when it's muddy and snowy and cold. It's not right.
I never thought about that.
Yeah, it's not.
It's hard to be a mobile quarterback in bad conditions.
So yeah, I think the regular season, I still give the Ravens the edge there. I think the Bengals and the Steelers are going to make it close, though.
Here's the thing. I got to wrap this up, but I'm having so much fun talking to you. You brought up the dome situation. Did you know that Jared Goff, like 90% of his games are in a dome this year? Do you think that the NFL is coddling the Lions and really wants them to be America's team? Because we all know that he can't play out of a dome. Yeah. Huh?
Say it one more time. What percent?
It's like 90% of his games. I think he only has 3 games that are played outside. Almost all of them are going to be played inside a dome. And we know that he can't play in weather, and he's exceptional in domes.
I think the NFL does do things like this because a similar thought came out about the Chiefs, where their schedule's conveniently tailored to where Taylor can be at the game. She's not in concert on those days. Yeah. I don't think that stuff is an accident. They're meticulous with the schedule. So yeah, the Lions are a great story, and they just had the draft there. I do think they want to, give them a little bit of an advantage here.
Well, yeah. I mean, as an NFC gal, I don't like it. I don't like it. All right, Frank, thank you so much for joining us today. If you're not familiar with Frank, you must be living under a rock because he has millions of followers across all social media. His YouTube absolutely goes off. He does these really cool videos that explain things that you didn't even know that you needed to know, and then you feel smarter and better after it. Frank, real quick, how did you get into doing this?
I started doing this because TikTok burst onto the scene and I saw these long videos on YouTube and I was like, oh, I could do that in 1 minute. And then I started writing my own and then it just compounded on itself. And now here I am 5 years later doing one every day.
It's amazing. And you've just exploded onto the scene. And by the way, one of the nicest guys in the world because he's from Pittsburgh. I'm telling you, people, Pittsburgh has this. I don't know. I didn't know anything about Pittsburgh, but I just assumed people were unfriendly there. And it couldn't be farther from the truth.
No, we're not too nice though. We're not like Midwest nice. We're a nice in between there. It's hilly enough, but not New York,
Yeah, I don't know because I went tailgating there and I had people offering us anything. They were like, "Oh, honey,
for
come
sure.
in,
That
eat
is a big
this,
thing at the
drink
tailgate.
that, do this." Like I was a ticket holder for 49ers. Nobody's inviting people in to their
It is one of the
tailgates.
friendliest things I've ever seen. That you're right. That is special. People, oh, come get some pasta, have a corn
Yes.
dog, here's some barbecue. It's amazing.
Yes. And it was everybody. Everybody was so welcoming and so warm, and you just don't get that everywhere. So shout out to Pittsburgh. Thank you so much to Frank Michael Smith for joining us today. Really, really appreciate you lending your time. You can follow him on social at Frank Michael Smith. This has been Moxie Bets presented by Caesar Sportsbook. Don't forget to follow us on social as well at Moxie Bets. We'll see you next time.